Legionary, Part 2. It is the year 52 before the birth of Christ. Gaul, a vast land of forests, rivers, and proud, warring tribes, has risen in revolt against Roman rule. United under the banner of a single chieftain, Vercingetorix of the Arverni, Gaul's once fractured tribes have forged a coalition to cast off the eagle standard of Rome. It is a rebellion not of one tribe, but many. Bituriges, Parisi, Carnutes, Aedui, Zenones, united in cause, if not in blood. Opposing them stands Gaius Julius Caesar, proconsul of Cisalpine and Transalpine Gaul, governor of Illyricum, conqueror, general, and political master. For 6 years he has campaigned across Gaul, subduing tribe after tribe. But now the war has changed. Before the march on Gergovia, the Caesar had divided his forces. He sent Titus Labienus, his most trusted legate, north with 4 legions and half the cavalry to subdue the Senones and the Parisii, who had begun to rise with the rebellion. Caesar himself advanced with 6 legions toward the Arverni capital. This bold division of strength stretched Roman lines and set the stage for the bitter siege that followed. We follow one soldier, Titus Cassius Scaeva, a centurion of the 10th Legion, veteran of Hispania, son of a Marian soldier, hardened by 15 years of blood and discipline. Last we left him, he and his men had arrived before the great hill fort of Gergovia, where the might of Rome would be proven, against walls, warriors, and the fury of a land that refused to kneel. What follows is his account of strength, of command, and of Rome's triumph over chaos. Our camp at Gergovia simmered like a held breath. We had taken a hill called La Roche Blanche days earlier, severing part of the Gauls' access to water and grazing land. And in answer, Vercingetorix had thrown up a second wall, a new fortification across the western saddle, shielding the only viable approach to the city. We knew what that meant. Battle was coming. It hung in the air like thunder that never cracked. I stood outside my tent, arms crossed, helmet tucked under one elbow, watching the ridgelines in the distance. The sun had yet to rise, but already the camp was stirring. Sentries shifting in formation, messengers flitting like wasps between the command tents. Drusus, my optio, joined me. He didn't salute. He never did when no one else was watching. But he gave the report straight. They've tightened the line overnight. Pullo saw 3 fresh watchfires on the slope. Either they're reinforcing, or they want us to think they are. Either way, I said, they're expecting something. He grunted. That meant agreement. Tension rippled through the ranks, a cold determination that Roman discipline would prevail, shaped by countless drills and tested in many battles. Even Lupus, who usually met mornings with curses and boasts, was silent as he checked his squad's pila, his expression calm, focused. The men weren't afraid. They were poised, disciplined, like a drawn bow held steady, ready to spring into action. This was the 10th. We had trained for this moment 100 times before. We would not falter, not here, not with Caesar watching. This battle would be won. Rome did not send her legions to fail. I made the rounds, shared nods with the other centurions. and all the while, I watched the hill. The order came at midday. A feint. Caesar's intent was not to storm the city outright, but to probe its defenses, light palisades, trenches, and that new stone-reinforced wall atop the western saddle meant to block any serious Roman advance. He hoped to draw the Gauls into confusion or misstep. 3 cohorts, nearly 1,200 men, would advance, press the enemy's western line, then pull back. My century was among the reserves, ready to support if needed. I formed my men with care, shields firm, lines tight. We stood in full formation, just behind the forward slope. I glanced at Drusus beside me and muttered, "Seems the glory goes to others today." Drusus didn't miss a beat. "Let them have it," he said. "We'll be the ones they call when things go wrong." I smirked. He wasn't wrong. Still, I took pride in the sight of them, 80 men, armored and disciplined, standing beneath the standard of the 10th like the killing machine they were trained to be. One of my men muttered something about how the real fight was happening uphill. Another snapped at him to keep his sword sharp and his mouth shut. Even my optio cracked the ghost of a smile. Then came the horns, a triple blast, long and sharp. The signal to advance, but only for the forward line. The forward line stepped off in good order, their movement crisp, ranks tight. From my position on the reserve slope, I watched with pride as Roman steel glinted in the sun, and the discipline of the legions unfolded like clockwork. Then I saw it. One cohort broke from formation, not all at once, but staggered, like a ripple-turned wave. They didn't advance. They charged. "What are they doing?" I barked, turning to Drusus. "That's not the signal. That's not the gods' damned order." He was already shouting, even before I gave the command. "Standard bearer, forward, shields up, on me." The Gauls saw it too, and reacted with terrifying speed. From their breastworks, they unleashed a storm. Arrows and slingstones peppered the advancing cohorts as they neared the palisade, the sound of impact like hail on bronze. From my position, I saw the men hesitate, formation faltering under the rain of missiles. The Gauls poured forward in answer, bursting from the defenses in a surge of spears and savage cries. I watched it unfold even as I gave the order to advance. The line broke. What had begun as a proud Roman march became a staggered crawl, then confusion, then collapse. I saw shields tilt back, backs turn, officers shouting to regroup. We had seconds to reach them before the Gauls overran the breach. A rout was forming. And that's when I gave the order. "Form up! Advance by line! Lock shields! Keep the line! If they break through us, they'll roll up the whole flank. We hold, or we die." Drusus relayed it down the line without hesitation. My standard rose. My century moved. We slammed into the gap the charging cohort had left. Plug in the breach before the Gauls could pour through it. Some of the men from that cohort had turned and were scrambling back down the slope. Many were already dead. A few reached us, faces bloodied, shields lost. But these were the most glorious moments of that cursed day, when Mars himself stood with us. My century held, shoulder to shoulder, as the storm closed around us. We planted ourselves like iron into the breach, facing wave after wave of Gallic warriors determined to shatter what discipline remained. We held with every ounce of training, every curse we could summon, every memory of those who had bled beside us in campaigns past. Behind us, the battered remnants of the routed cohort scrambled back into formation. I caught glimpses through the press, men gripping pilums with blood-slicked hands, centurions barking orders, standards rising anew through smoke and dust. We gave them time, by the gods. We bought them that time with our own blood and breath. The Gauls, emboldened by the Roman retreat, came farther and harder than expected. They hurled javelins and curses, trying to break through before our comrades could recover. We stood firm. We were the 10th. When the cohort reformed and rejoined the line, we began a slow, brutal withdrawal. Step by step, shield to shield. It was a retreat, fought like a campaign, but we bled for every pace. By the end, over 700 of our brothers lay dead across the slope. We had failed, but we had not broken, and we had not shamed the eagle. Caesar called for a full withdrawal. Trumpet signaled the fallback, and our lines disengaged under cover of the remaining reserves. I remembered the sound of it. Metal dragging over stone, groans of the wounded, the sharp commands of centurions rallying their men as we fell back across the ridges. The Gauls pursued only so far, harrying our rear with arrows and jeers, before retreating to their walls. That night our camp was quiet, too quiet. I walked the lines in silence, passing fires where no one spoke. We had taken the worst loss since the war began. Caesar summoned the officers before dawn. He stood wrapped in his cloak, hair still damp with sweat and mist, his eyes set like stone. No blame passed his lips, no excuses, only orders. We move at first light. This is not our ground. And just like that, Gergovia was behind us. We had not broken, but the rebellion had gained something we hadn't seen before. Hope.
For more stories, like and subscribe.